Over in the space of comics, there's nothing better than seeing a character who was once a dastardly and heinous villain begin to redeem or reform their past behavior. Norman Osborn is one of those villains who you might never think that could possibly get any sort of redemption. However, in the last run of Amazing Spider-Man, over in the landmark issue 50 of the title, written by Nick Spencer with art from Patrick Gleason, the Sin Eater shot Norman Osborn and he was cleansed of his sins. Almost 2 years later, since that incident, Norman Osborn has stayed mostly on the straight and narrow over in the pages of the new Amazing Spider-Man series. But now Norman is getting a chance to strike it big as a superhero in the debut of Gold Goblin #1. My name is Arakko Braddock, and today we're going to go ahead and dive deep into Gold Goblin #1. But before we dive any deeper into the video, want to go ahead and encourage you guys to consider subscribing to the channel if it's your first time checking out our content. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit that like button as well. Without further ado, I want to go ahead and read you the wonderful solicitation text from Marvel over for Gold Goblin #1. It's not easy being gold. Norman Osborn's sins may have been cleansed, but his memories weren't, and he's done plenty of horrific things to remember. Norman's worked hard to avoid all things goblin and to stay on the straight and narrow. Consequences in Amazing Spider-Man pushed him to try superheroing, and he liked it. But when the media dubs him the Gold Goblin, he has to start wondering, can he ever get away from the goblin inside? And I want to go ahead and read off the wonderful creative team for Gold Goblin #1. This series is written by Christopher Cantwell, illustrated by Lan Medina, colored from Antonio Fabela, and lettered by VC's Joe Sabino. There's a beautiful cover from Taurin Clarke that I'm actually going to go ahead and show off to everybody right now as we dive into our official review for Gold Goblin #1. Okay, so first thing I wanted to do is kind of show off this costume because this is a bit of a new look for Norman Osborn, as we just went ahead and discussed in the solicitation text for the issue itself. So essentially, this Gold Goblin suit was created very recently over at Marvel Comics. I think it looks absolutely stellar, and I've always loved this cover from Clarke, just because of the reflection from Norman Osborn. I love how it fits the conflicted thematic tie of the issue so incredibly well, and just gives that like additional context behind like the dark nature of the series before you even dive into the first issue. But I really enjoy the actual interior art because, like the cover itself, it's just so incredibly thematic. Real quick, big thanks to Adventures in Poor Taste for providing this preview of the issue. And now let's talk a little bit about some of the beautiful interiors from Lan Medina. So I really think throughout this issue that Medina is able to capture so many dark elements. Medina really works closely with Fabela, and there's who actually does the colors on the issue, and there's so much incredible shading and kind of dark elements. This is a really sort of dark and noir story that sees Norman really trying to kind of push against his nature and become something a little bit brighter and a little bit nicer than what he is on the average day. The way his sort of conscience manifests with Gwen Stacy, talking to him throughout the issue, teases, some of the kind of fractured parts of his psyche. And I love how creepily Medina is able to draw Stacy. In some of these panels, she has no eyes, and in some, she has great big eyes. And also, this second page, I actually caught on an earlier live stream over on my channel. I just love the way that the panels are sort of off center on this page, kind of leading to a darker and darker and darker overall kind of like aesthetic for the issue. And also like the way the the creative team is listed out here, and the way that Norman goes back to his office and kind of creepily looks over at his Gold Goblin suit with that sort of frayed expression is wonderful. In those first couple Spider-Man films, I always loved some of the symbolism with Norman Osborn's mask. And that is actually in this issue as well, even though the Gold Goblin mask is so shiny and reflective. As Norman continues to look at the Gold Goblin mask, he continues to see different sort of faces sort of in the reflection as the issue goes. And there's so many just wonderful thematic touches like this. Author Christopher Cantwell's script is extremely dark and extremely foreboding, and really needed that sort of quiet, ruminating sense to flesh out and portray the dark sensibility that Norman Osborn's books always have. Also, I really enjoy Christopher Cantwell's writing from a narrative perspective, and I always find that Cantwell really tries to push the source material as far as he can. My example for you is going to be the opening sequence of this issue. We actually find Norman with Normie Osborn, his grandson, and just the way that the duo kind of go through a normal day, despite Norman having so many skeletons in his closet, was actually my favorite scene of the entire issue, because it revealed so much depth and complexity to Norman's character overall. At the end of the issue, we get a little bit of action and a little bit of payoff to see, how Norman might function in this Gold Goblin role. He goes up against a really interesting kind of supporting Spider-Man cast member. But even though the series doesn't have those big kind of plot ramifications, it really goes thick on the kind of characterization, for Norman. And I think readers get a much better, sense of kind of where he is mentally. Over in the Amazing Spider-Man main series from kind of Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr., I think we've gotten a lot of great characterization for Norman. But what's going on with him right now is so complex that devoting an entire miniseries, like this Gold Goblin story, is, I think, absolutely essential at this point. So I'm really going to encourage you to go ahead and check out this debut for Gold Goblin on #1. I think this issue is written with so much interesting pathos and respect for the Osborn character. Cantwell is just so great at drawing narratives with characters who have a really serious and hardened sensibility to them and are interested in doing good, but have a lot of things that they're fighting through. And I just think that came through so incredibly well through the issue itself. And I think that Marvel did a wonderful job pairing Lan Medina and Antonio Fabela with Cantwell in this issue also. It's just so fantastic to see so many thematic elements throughout the issue, whether it be, a frayed look at Norman's past, or just a conflicted facial expression. I think you're really going to want to go ahead and check this out. Marvel is doing some revolutionary new things with the Spider-Man franchise. I really love, Zeb Wells' complete run on the series over with John Romita Jr. We have tons of videos over on the channel talking about all of the new changes that Wells has done to the Spider-Man property. And then also, I just want to go ahead and shout out this creative team one more time. I think they did a wonderful job, from Cantwell to Lan Medina over to Antonio Fabela. And I really had a fantastic time making this video. Thank you guys so much for checking it out. I'll be back very soon for more wonderful comic book content. Thank you so much. Bye.